Hello, welcome to The Green Show. I am your host, Ashok Khosla. It is not uncommon for industrialists to take advantage of the free resources of the environment, both as raw materials for their processes and as sinks for their wastes. The costs are, of course, passed on to others who have to breathe the foul air and drink the contaminated waters left over, and to those who have to eke out a livelihood from the deteriorating ecosystem. That, after all, is what the marketplace has been doing for the past couple of centuries, internalizing the benefits and externalizing the costs. But if the invisible hand of the free market is not to become the clenched fist of a neo-feudal economy, our basic assumptions must change quickly and quite radically. Money cannot be all that counts. People, nature, and life in general are also important. It is our effort on The Green Show to bring you insights that might help each business become a better corporate citizen for its own good and for the good of its neighbors.
In this edition of The Green Show, we have Floundering Foundaries, a report from Howrah, where scores of iron foundries are threatened with closure for air pollution.
Translocating Problems, a report on the government's efforts to relocate polluting industries within the National Capital Region.
And Clean Dairy, a close look at Morther Dairy's effluent treatment plant.
The ongoing crackdown on industrial plants to curtail their pollution is a long-awaited and welcome step that will surely ease the pressure on our environment, and the people living nearby will be able to breathe much more easily. But who is thinking of the plight of the small industrial units who cannot afford the costs of pollution control, or whose owners simply do not know the rules they have to comply with? What happens to the workers and to the other small businesses that depend on these units? Let us visit Howrah district near Calcutta, where scores of iron foundries are threatened with closure for violating air pollution norms.
As highly toxic fumes fill the morning air on the banks of the Hooghly, the workers toiling in the factories that churn out the smoke seem hardly aware that they have a hazy future to contend with. In fact, the owners of the factories too are a bit dazed by the recent turn of events. The cause of the crisis, a Supreme Court order asking the factories to implement pollution control norms immediately or face closure. The court order has put 174 iron casting foundries, rolling and forging mills in West Bengal's Howrah district under a cloud. Thousands of small to large units in Howrah form the backbone of innumerable factories in the state. The district's highly skilled and experienced workers produce anything from cogs and wheels to tram cars and train wagons. In the tin sheds, garages, and backyard shops, the steady drone of machines is a reminder of the days when the region was known as the Sheffield of the East. However, the district is now paying a heavy price for pollution, chaos, and unplanned growth. Several factories in the area are languishing or have closed down. The foundries are an integral part of Howrah's industrial scene. They were set up decades ago when the air was clean and pollution was not a burning issue. They make pig iron and industrial scrap to produce cast iron, which is poured into molds to make all sorts of items and machine parts. They also produce export goods ranging from flanges to water pump bodies to various types of burners. Using relatively basic technology, The foundries have thrived so long in a market driven simply by supply and demand. Now the times have changed. The health of the workers must be protected, and most importantly, the health of the community at large. The foundries have not modernized and don't know how to do it. But their owners are willing to listen. They say only if the government or the Pollution Control Board tell them what exactly to do, they would do their level best to comply. As the impasse continues, thousands of workers persevere in the unbearable heat, blissfully ignorant about the pollution debate raging through the industry.
Part of the society, as we live in this society, we have really to do something to control pollution. One must not have the guts or have the right to play with one's health hazards of the society. But one must also try to find out and see that to what extent it is possible for us to control this pollution in this type of foundry industry.
There is no device also. That device can provide us the full norms that has been given by the government. The government has given the devices, not devices, but norms that from the foreign countries. In our country, what infrastructure we has, it cannot be go to that level that the Central Board of Pollution want.
We want to do or maintain everything for this pollution, but we do not know what to do or how to process it, how to develop these things. If we just follow the American or German technology, we cannot follow it because it is too much expensive for us.
What we are talking about the wet process and other type of process, it is very hard for us to implement this. Number one is the cost regarding this. Number two is the device, or there is know-how. There is no actually know-how, proper know-how, or the Pollution Control Board has been unable to give us any proper know-how so that we can put it in our foundry to control this pollution.
In foreign countries, the inputs of the foundry, we cannot get here. They are getting the coal 5 to 8% as content. But in our country, the as content of the coal is 35 to 40%.
The government, through Coal India Limited, is a government unit. They are supplying the coal. Will it be possible for them to bring down the ash percentage to 5%? Is it possible for this type of industry to import coal? Why should not the government take the initiative to bring the coal and supply to us and then speak for this pollution?
We are trying to cope with the sudden pressure that has been brought upon us. We have repeatedly sought help from the government and asked it to give us a modernization scheme. We have held seminars and meetings with ministers. But the government has told us it cannot help us with money. Neither has it any specific technology or device to control pollution. We have to do everything ourselves, but we will face serious problems if we try to proceed on our own.
Financially, that anyone have to help us to develop all those things, and we have to give time for these things because we don't know anything about this. Nothing, not a drop of things.
The Supreme Court directive should be obliged with. The government should take enough measure so that it is done according to the needs of our society. On one side, we should control pollution, and the other side, our ability to control the pollution. Though these two must be compromised with each other.
There are some 350 foundries in Howrah which directly employ about 35,000 workers. The total workforce dependent on the units runs into 500,000 who cut, shape and piece together foundry output into finished goods. They include lathe operators to machine men to welders. For all of them, the foundries are the only means of survival. Even the telawalas, who ferry industrial output between different units, will not know where to go if the fire in the foundry furnaces dies down. For all the workers and their families, who number between 3 million and 4 million, the death of the foundries will mean an even harder struggle for survival.
There are about 100 to 150 workers in this factory. The workers and their families add up to about 350 to 400. If the factory closes down, all these 400 people will reach a dead end. We will be helpless if that happens. Moreover, we can only work in a foundry because we do not have any other skills. Our lives and livelihood depend on this foundry.
Can a solution be found before the foundries in Howrah choke? For if it can, the air will get cleaner and the industry survive.
Our government has introduced a wide range of environmental laws to control industrial pollution. The machinery to enforce these is, however, in its infancy. But the courts are not going to wait for either government to take action or for industry to clean up on their own. Recently, the Supreme Court has asked the Central Pollution Control Board to sue closure of 8,378 industries located in Delhi for violating the rules of 1990 Master Plan. Wouldn't the cost of putting in pollution control measures be far less than the cost of being evicted and relocated? We bring you a report from Delhi.
Delhi today is more congested and polluted than ever before. Pressures of rising population and migration have largely contributed to the problem. The population of Delhi, which was 17 lakhs in 1951, is now close to the crore mark according to the latest census report. The claustrophobic atmosphere has been further heightened by the presence of various industrial units that have mushroomed in various pockets of Delhi. Most of these units fall under the category of small-scale industries. According to the Rajamani Committee report, there are about 93,000 such small and tiny industries operating in the capital. A survey conducted by the Delhi Pollution Control Committee revealed that about 8,500 of such units are hazardous and pose a threat to those living in and around the industrial areas. The master plan of Delhi provides for setting up of industries only in the conforming areas which have been earmarked for the purpose. But over the years, a large number of units have come up in residential or non-conforming areas. Inaction on the part of the pollution control authorities has abetted the process.
All the agencies in this country have failed as far as environment protection is concerned. The Water Pollution Control Act was passed in 1974, Air Pollution Control Act was passed in 1981, Environment Protection Act was passed in 1986, and so many hazardous waste management rules and so many rules have been framed under the Environment Protection Act. Unfortunately, all these laws are on paper so far. The pollution control boards have not become effective in the implementation of these laws. Similarly, the Ministry of Environment and Forest, they have not been successful in implementing these laws. So as a result of that, there is a serious pollution in the groundwater sources, in the air, and now the cities are choking with the vehicular pollution and so many other problems. So as a result of that, the people, millions of people in this country, they have become victim of serious environmental problems and this pollution and various diseases. So as a result of that, there is no other course. The people, just to take some relief, they are going to the courts. And the courts have done a commendable job that way that the Supreme Court of India has become a savior of the environment and the people's life and health of this country.
The Supreme Court has now directed the Central Pollution Control Board to issue notices to 8,378 polluting industries operating in non-conforming areas to relocate elsewhere.
Very positive responses from other state governments, especially Haryana and Rajasthan. And they said that they are welcome and to have any industry from Delhi. and they are ready to give land, industrial land and other infrastructure in terms of power and other things to these industries if they want to be relocated. And we have already identified some of the areas, industrial areas, where these industries can be relocated. So this is being done by the National Capital Region Board, and soon we'll obtain the list of the industries where they can be relocated, and we'll inform the industry accordingly.
But while the effort to provide the inhabitants of the capital some fresh air gathers steam, the owners of the affected industrial units are finding it difficult to come to terms with the concept of translocation.
तो बंद करा देंगे हम और हमारी लेबर सारे परेशान हो जाएंगे। छोटी छोटी पूंजी वाले यहाँ बैठे हैं, इसके अलावा कोई और जरिया ही नहीं है, और कोई तो हम पे जरिया ही नहीं है हमारा किसी और का भी। जो भी हैं इसी फैक्ट्रियों के पीछे सबका पालन पोषण हो रहा है, हमारा भी और हमारे साथियों का भी।
But that does not negate the fact that the owners of the polluting units have a duty to its society at large.
The fact is that the management is solely responsible for the creation, for creating the pollution, and it is the duty of the management to obey the laws of the land, to implement the pollution control laws, and to see that the workers as well as the people, they can live in a atmosphere free from pollution and other hazards. But unfortunately, the management is not doing that job. The management, instead of controlling pollution, they go to the pollution control boards, or they try to create a pressure, or they try to influence the authorities in one way or the other, and try to take more and more time.
Industry members, however, say that the costs of translocation are too high. They have suggested that the government should explore the various alternatives to translocation, like the setting up of common effluent treatment plants.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो भी आदेश हैं उनको तो जो भी है, चाहे वो पॉलिटिकल आदमी है या ब्यूरोक्रेट है या एक पब्लिक का आदमी है या कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उसको तो ओबे करना ही है, उसका रिगार्ड करना ही है, उसमें कोई संदेह वाली बात नहीं है। मैं तो माननीय न्यायाधीश से यही रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगा, उन तक ये अपनी बात पहुँचाना चाहूँगा कि इसको दोबारा कंसिडर करें, और इसमें जो कंसर्न्ड एजेंसीज हैं पहले उनसे तो ये पूछें कि उन्होंने किया क्या है और इंडस्ट्रीज़ को पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल करने के लिए क्या किया जाना चाहिए, ताकि वो सॉल्यूशंस जो है इंडस्ट्रीज़ अडॉप्ट करें और उनको टाइम बाउंड प्रोग्राम दे दिया जाए गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज़ को भी और इंडस्ट्रीज़ को भी, ताकि उस समस्या का सुचारू रूप से समाधान हो सके।
It cannot be denied that the workers in the targeted industries will be adversely affected if the units are uprooted from where they presently are. Unemployment will surely be one of the major fallouts. But at the same time, we cannot afford to ignore the present situation. A solution more lasting than mere translocation has to be evolved if we are to reverse the degradation and prevent its recurrence in the future. The government should prepare a comprehensive zoning atlas to help industrialists set their units in suitable locations and also enforce the guidelines strictly. Development of green belts and large-scale afforestation in cities plagued with the problem of pollution should be undertaken with a greater zeal than has been exhibited so far.
As for people and communities, water is the lifeline of most industries. However, by the time the water runs its course through an industrial process, it usually gets heavily polluted with wastes and toxic chemicals. If untreated, the effluent can contaminate the very sources from which the industry draws its water in the first place. Thus, treating effluents is not only good for the wider environment, but a necessary element of long-term self-interest. A growing number of industries today are getting smart on the need to protect their future. We now take you to the Morther Diary plant in the nation's capital to see how they clean up their effluent.
Delhi's Morther Diary, the first of the largest liquid milk plant in Asia. Evolved as an integral part of the Operation Flood, the world's largest dairy development program, it procures milk in bulk and sells it through its bulk milk vending booths. The dairy was commissioned in December 1974 with an installed processing capacity of 400,000 litres a day. Today, Morther Diary is capable of storing, clarifying, homogenizing and pasteurizing 650,000 litres of milk per day. Morther Diary follows a strict system of quality control to maintain the high quality of milk provided to the Delhi consumer. Besides product control, strict control is kept on sanitation. The importance of clean water in the plant, therefore, hardly needs to be emphasized. However, this water, after passing through the stages in milk processing, gets polluted by various dairy wastes. These effluents, though non-toxic, are ecological pollutants, and if allowed to flow out untreated, can pollute the river and the groundwater in its course.
If any industry is there, during its operation, it is bound to produce some waste products, maybe during cleaning operations or during handling of the products. And these waste products, if you just let it flow on the land or in the river, it will spoil the aquatic life in the rivers, and on the land it will spoil the groundwater. And this water has to be utilized for the industry for various purposes, and they have to remove all these chemicals, let us say. Maybe the dairy industry do not have any toxic material, but other industries, the chemical industries or electroplating industries or paint industries or sugar industries, they have a lot of chemicals which will percolate down, and the composition of the water will change. This will affect their day-to-day use either for drinking or for using for various purposes in their respective industries.
Conscious of its social responsibility to the environment and realizing the long-term benefits, Morther Diary was one of the first industries to set up an effluent treatment plant with a capacity of 15 lakh litres a day in 1982. The raw effluent, comprising of dairy waste and domestic sewage from the staff quarters, is removed of the floating grease and conveyed to the equalization tank. Here, the effluent is aerated to maintain uniformity in characteristics with the help of air blowers. The pH levels are constantly monitored to ensure homogeneity. The aerated effluent is then passed on to the aeration tank. The heart of the treatment scheme, this tank is an aerobic biological reactor which is designed on the basis of the activated sludge process. This involves stabilization of the organic matter by the action of various microorganisms in the presence of oxygen. The overflow of the mixed liquor, suspended solids, or the MLSS from the aeration tanks is received in the clarifier, where the suspended solids are readily separated from the water. The settled sludge is pumped out by the sludge pumps to the aeration tanks continuously to maintain the required MLSS. The excess thickened sludge is pumped out to the sludge drying beds for dewatering. The solid matter left behind after the subsequent evaporation of water yields a rich manure. This is then dug out by Morther Diary to be used in their own gardens. The clarified final effluent, on the other hand, is received in the polishing pond, from where it is disposed of by pumping into the river. This water is also used by the dairy gardeners for their plants, and sure enough, Morther Diary has won many awards for its gardens.
Treated effluent, we can use it not only for garden, maybe by putting a suitable equipment, we can use it for various purposes in the industry also. Maybe there are equipments available by which you can use it as a drinking water also. Maybe the initial cost may be high, but on the long run, maybe it will be beneficial for you. You need not depend upon the extra source of water.
Morther Diary's commitment to the environment contributes significantly to its success, and it surely would encourage a lot of other industries to take up similar steps.
Life for the few cannot be made much better for long at the expense of the many. Today, a significant portion of our country's population is better off than ever before. But there are also more people who are poor, hungry, and illiterate than there have been before in our nation's history. And these numbers are still growing. And the environment, both for the rich and the poor, continues to deteriorate. Poverty and environmental degradation go hand in hand, just as affluence and pollution do. Only a more equitable form of development can save us from the perils of a society engulfed by poverty and pollution. This means that the patterns of consumption of our better-off citizens and the production systems of our economy must change fundamentally. It is the job of the Green Show to explore the directions needed.